You won't believe what my HOA tried to pull on me. Imagine waking up one day, walking to your lakefront property, the same one you've paid taxes on for over a decade, only to find a brand new cabin sitting right in the middle of your land. Not a shed, not a dock, a full-blown cabin complete with a porch, chairs, and even a private property. HOA members only sign. That's exactly what happened to me. Let me take you back a few months. I own about 10 acres of land by a quiet lake, peaceful, private, and just far enough from town that you could hear nature, not car horns. My property line runs all the way down to the lake, but right next to it is a fancy new HOA neighborhood, full of people who think they own the world just because they pay monthly dues. At first, it wasn't an issue. I'd see them kayaking or fishing occasionally, no big deal. But slowly, they started treating my part of the shore like it was theirs. Picnic tables, trash bins, and even a community beach sign appeared one day. I took it down every time, and every time it reappeared. It was annoying, but I figured it wasn't worth the drama. Until the cabin showed up. It happened while I was out of town visiting family. When I got back, I nearly dropped my coffee when I saw a log cabin standing at the edge of my property. It looked newly built, fresh wood, glass windows, even a tiny deck facing the lake. My no trespassing signs were gone, and in their place, a wooden board read, Lakeview HOA Guest Cabin, Residents Only. I thought it was a joke. It had to be. So, I called the HOA office listed on the sign. A woman named Patricia, the HOA president, answered. And let me tell you, she had the attitude of someone who thought she ran the entire county. When I told her she'd built a cabin on my land, she laughed. Literally laughed. "Oh no, sir," she said in that fake sweet voice. "That area belongs to the Lakeview HOA community. Our surveyor confirmed it." I told her I am the property owner, and I had the deeds, tax records, and surveys to prove it. But she brushed me off and said, "If you think it's yours, feel free to contact our legal team." That's when I knew things were about to get ugly. The next day, I went to the county office to pull up all the property records. And sure enough, every document confirmed what I already knew. The land was mine. 100%. The HOA's boundary stopped 50 feet before the cabin. Somehow, they'd either faked their survey or just didn't care. So, I sent a certified letter demanding they remove the cabin within 10 days, or I take action myself. Guess what happened? Nothing. No calls, no emails, no apologies. Just more HOA arrogance. A few members even started using the cabin on weekends, boating, grilling, leaving beer cans on my dock. It was like watching trespassers throw a party in your living room. That's when I decided enough was enough. I contacted a lawyer friend who confirmed I had every legal right to remove unauthorized structures from my property. "As long as you document it," he said, "you're in the clear." So I did. I took photos, videos, drone footage, everything showing the cabin's location compared to my legal property line. Then, one Saturday morning, I brought in a demolition crew. You should have seen the HOA members' faces when they saw excavators rolling in. Patricia came sprinting out of her house in a sun hat, waving her phone, yelling, "You can't do that. This is HOA property." I calmly showed her my documents. "Not according to the county," I said. "You've been trespassing." She tried to stand in front of the bulldozer, shouting something about community assets. The operator just waited while I called the sheriff. When the deputy arrived, I handed him the paperwork. He took one look, nodded, and said, "Ma'am, you might want to step aside. He's within his rights." The look on her face was priceless. Within an hour, the cabin was flattened. The debris was hauled away, and I posted fresh, private property signs every few feet. It felt incredible, justice served with the sound of cracking wood. But of course, the HOA wasn't going to let that be the end of it. 3 days later, I got a thick envelope in the mail. Notice of lawsuit, property damage and vandalism. Yep, the HOA was suing me for demolishing their cabin. They claimed I destroyed community property worth over $80,000 and caused emotional distress to residents who relied on the cabin for recreation. They even accused me of illegally trespassing on HOA land, which, by the way, was my land to begin with. At that point, I knew I had to fight fire with fire. I gathered every piece of evidence: survey maps, county land deeds, construction photos, drone footage, and handed them all to my lawyer. He just smirked and said, "They picked the wrong person to mess with." The court date was set for 3 weeks later, and in the meantime, things got even pettier. HOA members would drive by my property, shouting insults, honking horns, even leaving fake violation notices in my mailbox. Patricia sent me one last email saying, "You'll regret crossing the HOA." But I wasn't backing down. Not after what they pulled. I was ready for the courtroom showdown. The day of the court hearing, I walked in calm and confident, armed with a binder full of proof. Across the room sat Patricia and the entire HOA board, dressed like they were attending a wedding instead of a legal beatdown. They smirked when I entered, whispering among themselves as if they'd already won. Their lawyer stood up first, acting like this was an open and shut case. He claimed that the HOA had been in lawful possession of the lakeside area for years, that they'd improved it for community benefit, and that I had willfully destroyed HOA property. Then he dropped a big line. "We are seeking $120,000 in damages for property destruction, emotional distress, and loss of community enjoyment." The judge, an older man who'd clearly seen his share of nonsense cases, raised an eyebrow and asked, "Do you have any documentation showing this cabin was built on your property?" The lawyer handed over a map, and I kid you not, it was the most amateur, inaccurate, self-made map I'd ever seen. It looked like someone had printed a Google satellite image and drawn the property line with a highlighter. The judge frowned. "Where's the official survey?" The HOA lawyer hesitated. "We didn't bring that, Your Honor." That's when my lawyer stood up, cool as ice, and said, "We did." He handed over the county-approved property survey, signed and dated, showing the exact coordinates of my land and where the cabin had been built. The cabin wasn't just a few inches over the line. It was 70 feet inside my property. The courtroom went silent. Then my lawyer added, "We also have photos and drone footage showing the construction taking place without the landowner's consent, and public records showing no permit was ever filed for that structure." He flipped through images of Patricia and a few HOA members literally standing beside the half-built cabin, smiling for photos that they had proudly posted on social media. The posts were still online, captioned with things like, "HOA's new lakeside retreat nearly done." The judge leaned back, clearly trying not to laugh. "So, to clarify, you're suing him for demolishing a cabin you built, without a permit on his land?" Patricia stood up, red-faced. "We were told that land was part of the HOA boundary," she snapped. "By who?" the judge asked. Our previous surveyor." "Do you have that survey?" "No, but—" The judge cut her off. "Then I'm going to stop you right there. From what I can see, Mr., your last name, has every legal right to remove an unauthorized structure from his property. This lawsuit shouldn't have even reached this courtroom." Patricia's jaw dropped. "You can't just dismiss it. He destroyed our property." The judge looked at her and said, "Ma'am, your property was built illegally on someone else's land. If anything, he could sue you for trespassing, land misuse, and property damage." That's when the entire HOA table went pale. The judge officially dismissed their case with prejudice, meaning they couldn't refile it. Then he turned to me and said, "Mr., your last name, if you'd like to pursue damages, you are within your rights." I smiled. "Oh, I fully intend to." A month later, I filed a countersuit against the HOA for trespassing, illegal construction, and property damage. My lawyer handled everything, and honestly, I didn't even have to show up much after that. The evidence spoke for itself. Turns out, the HOA never filed permits, never consulted a surveyor, and even tried to bribe a small local contractor to just build it fast before anyone notices. That contractor came forward and testified, saying Patricia had told him, "Don't worry about the paperwork, it's HOA land." That was the nail in the coffin. The court ruled in my favor. The HOA had to pay me $95,000 for damages and legal fees. On top of that, the county fined them for unpermitted construction and misuse of private property. When the news hit the neighborhood, the residents turned on Patricia. Apparently, most of them didn't even know the cabin was built illegally. They thought it was part of their dues. Once they learned their HOA fees had gone into an illegal project, they held a vote and removed the entire board. Patricia tried to play the victim, but the evidence was too strong. She eventually resigned and moved out of the neighborhood a few months later. As for me, I used part of that settlement money to build a small fishing dock on my property, the right way, with all permits in place. I even installed a small sign that reads, "Private property, built legally, thanks." Every now and then, I'll see a few of the new HOA members out by the lake. They wave politely now. No more signs, no more trespassing, no more entitlement. But the best part? A few weeks after everything settled, I got a letter from the county thanking me for bringing attention to the unauthorized construction. Apparently, the HOA had been cutting corners on permits for years, installing fences, benches, and sheds on other people's property. My case opened an investigation that exposed all of it. The HOA was forced to correct every violation. And let's just say, that lake community has been very quiet ever since. So yeah, my HOA thought they could steal a chunk of my land, build a cabin on it, and call it theirs. But when I fought back, the truth came crashing down, along with their illegal cabin. Moral of the story? Always know your property lines, and never mess with someone who does.